This particular Scooby-Doo show is different from the rest, from having a love triangle between Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby to even having supernatural entities. There was basically everything in this show. The animation and the art style were also both very unique. The one thing that does bring the whole show down for some people is the relationship between Shaggy and Velma and how weird it is. But I guess it does make sense when you realize that they are portrayed as teenagers between the ages of 16 and 18. In my opinion, this has to be one of the best animated shows released in the past couple of years. Obviously, it's not as well written as something like Avatar, but it's still very entertaining and an enjoyable series. This series was the 11th incarnation of the Scooby-Doo media franchise, and it was created by Hanna-Barbera. Mystery Incorporated also pays respect to the horror genre by drawing on works such as A Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, Twin Peaks, and H.P. Lovecraft. Now let's get into the plot. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I would go watch the show, or you can continue to watch if you've already seen it, or if you don't care to be spoiled. Of course, we always have our main characters, Fred Jones, Daphne Blake, Velma Dinkley, Norval, Shaggy Rogers, and Scooby-Doo himself. Two characters that always appear a lot are the mayor, who is Fred's father, and Sheriff Bronson Stone, who is the sheriff of the town. These two characters are always disproving of the cast solving mysteries instead of getting an actual job. Besides the typical mysteries that are always being solved in Scooby-Doo shows, there's a secret lurking somewhere underneath Crystal Cove. Beware the Beast from Below is the first episode of the show. After being locked up by Sheriff Bronson Stone, they get released and talk about how no one actually appreciates them for what they do. Velma is leading a tour at a museum, and before she can reveal that these so-called ghosts are just criminals in disguise, her parents put a hand over her mouth. Now let's get into the monster part of this story. A bunch of sewer workers manage to open a passage into caves, and they discover some toxic barrels. A green substance suddenly comes out and they start screaming. Now let's get back to Velma's and Shaggy's relationship. Velma is currently talking with Shaggy about revealing their relationship. Soon after, a manhole suddenly explodes and the Slime Mutant monster comes out. Then it disappears. After they find the cave entrance, Shaggy notices the three previous workers we saw before, who are now cocooned. They once again get lectured by the police, which is kinda concerning because they're the only ones actually doing something. We see more scenes of this relationship between Shaggy and Velma, and we also see a scene where Fred is very oblivious to the hints that Daphne is trying to give. The gang go to Fruitmeyer's, and that's where they meet Franklin Fruitmeyer, where he shows off his green dessert. After Shaggy and Scooby take a bite of the supposed green slime, they find out that it was actually just Fruitmeyer's dessert, and they start suspecting him. Shaggy and Scooby dress up like girls in order to get a job at Fruitmeyer's. They're also in charge of locking up the restaurant at night, but while they open a storage closet, they encounter the Slime Mutant monster. Fred's trap doesn't work on the monster, and he starts ranting to himself on why it didn't work. The slime monster turns out to be none other than Professor Raffalo, who they previously met before when they asked him to analyze the state of the bodies. Daphne had also found a locket, and she asked the professor if he knows anything about it, but he says he doesn't. There are some questions when we see the mayor being surprised when he sees the locket. At the end of the episode, they hang out with Angel Dynamite, who is a radio hostess. But then Shaggy gets a call from someone named Mr. E, who says they made a mistake by removing the locket, and that the real mystery is now just beginning. After a pretty interesting first episode, we start episode 2, which is titled The Creeping Creatures. A father and his family go to a town called Gatorsburg, and for some reason he thinks that they're in New York. The dog runs to the bushes, and the daughter comes after him in hot pursuit. But then they get attacked by these creatures and they quickly drive away. Fred is bored at home until they receive a package from Mr. E, and the bag within it is made from 100% pure gator. Gatorsburg used to be a very prosperous town because some prospectors dug up alligators, which were very valuable. But soon enough, all the gator mines dried up and the town became invisible. The Mystery Incorporated crew then go to Gatorsburg in order to find out more information based on the clue from Mr. E. Once again, the viewers have to endure more romantic scenes between Shaggy and Velma. They find no clues and they all get back together only to realize that the engine is actually gone. A mechanic tells them that buying an engine will take an entire day and none of their parents are willing to come pick them up. The mechanic also says that they could go over to his sister's hotel, although she and her son are both displeased when they notice them. Scooby is attacked by the gator monsters and he runs over to Fred's room, where he's telling Daphne about all of his traps. Velma and Shaggy are about to kiss, but the rest of the gang appear and they all start running away. Shaggy manages to save Velma and they notice that a glove was left behind, which indicates that these are just normal people. The gator monsters stop chasing them and that's when they realize that the Gator People just wanted them to leave the town. They once again come up with a trap and capture the creatures. To no one's surprise, the creatures are the only other people that were actually in the episode, which were the mechanic, his sister, and the sister's son. The explanation for why they did this is just because they wanted to run some sort of Gator product operation. The mystery machine surprisingly starts working again, and there's another note from Mr. E, who tells them that this is only a piece of the puzzle, and that's where episode 2 concludes. The title of episode 3 is The Ghost or The Secret of the Ghost Rig. A teen who's speeding by is told by a police officer to not go over the speed limit, and soon after a truck comes by. The police officer realizes that no one is actually driving the truck, and he hangs off the cliff while his bike falls to the ocean. Fred and everyone else help Mayor Jones to win the re-election against someone named George Avocados. Meanwhile, at Daphne's place, her parents want her to marry this rich boy. Scooby somehow manages to spill ink over George Avocados, and we also find out from Fred's father that George's dad stole a diamond from a bank, and he got sentenced to prison. The mystery machine meets this mysterious ghost truck, and they manage to escape due to Fred's expertise on the road. More stuff happens with Daphne and her date, but we also find out that Scooby discovers a note from Mr. E which states, "Crystals can't open doors like a diamond." The whole gang starts suspecting George Avocados to be the mysterious truck driver, but then they start getting chased by it. With another trap being set, the truck is thrown to the ground and the culprit is actually Rung Latterton, who was Daphne's date. His reasoning was that his family's ladder company was becoming broke. Mayor Jones announced his stay as the mayor and everyone starts cheering. That's the end of episode 3. Revenge of the Man Crab is the title of episode 4. A giant crab beast grabs a girl named Brenda and then it appears once again to kidnap her boyfriend Dylan. The volleyball tournament starts and we see more pointless drama between Shaggy, Scooby, and Velma. The crab arm suddenly comes out of the sand and destroys the whole court. The crab causes even more chaos and then it drags a female player through the sand. There's some suspicion on a person named Skipper Shelton who is a middle-aged man and he wasn't seen at all during the attack. For some reason, Fred decides to use Daphne as bait in order to lure the crab monster. Daphne and Velma do some talking about relationship stuff until the man crab comes and knocks Velma into the mystery machine. Daphne also screams after encountering the creature. Daphne is then pulled into the sand, which causes Fred to start digging into the sand. They get another letter from Mr. E and it contains an article about 4 kids who disappeared in the caves, and a track tape message. The gang goes to the caves and they discover a cage of Brenda, Dylan, Daphne, and the volleyball player inside. The man crab then arrives and chases them, but we all know how this ends and he gets caught into a trap. Everyone thinks the creature is Skipper Shelton, but it actually turns out to be Bud Shelton. His reasoning was that he invented something and he wanted to take revenge on Peter Crickle for taking all of the credit. His end goal was to blame Skipper Shelton, and after Daphne asked why he didn't get lawyers, his response was that they take too long. Daphne is shown the newspaper clipping, and there's a realization as the 2 kids in the locket photo in episode 1 are the same kids that also disappeared. We also see Angel Dynamite who's listening in from outside, which causes some suspicion. The 5th episode is the Song of Mystery. Daphne is babysitting this one random kid and he suddenly wakes up in the middle of the night due to this random flute. Daphne looks outside and sees a strange person. So she decides to check Arthur's room only for him to turn into a monster and chase her out. There was only smoke where the figure was standing. We then get reminded that these characters are teenagers after Fred says he has to pass civics in order to remain eligible for athletics. The civic tutor of Fred turns out to be this random girl named Mary Ann Glierdon, and later that night the flute plays once again in another neighborhood. The creature turns out to be a mythological figure by the name of Que Horrifico. They suspect Portillo, who is the school's new exchange teacher, and they go to his house to spy on him. He allows for the mystery gang to chain him up since he doesn't know if he's actually the monster or not. The flute plays once again and we see all the parents leaving the houses. The gang decides to disguise themselves as a new family in order to bait the creature. The plan initially works until Que Horrifico sends to hypnotize children after them. The creature tells the kids to attack, but they take off all the cosmetics and say that they would rather watch TV. They caught Que Horrifico and it actually turns out to be Fred's tutor, Mary Ann Glierdon, who states that she wanted to turn Crystal Cove into a utopia. Nothing much happened at the end of the episode except for Portillo coming over and he hosts a concert. The Legend of Alice May is the title of episode 6. Randy is ready to go to prom with this day until she removes her mask and it turns out to be a terrifying creature. Velma convinces Shaggy that they should come out as a couple on prom night and also watch the marathon together without Scooby. A transfer student by the name of Alice May shows interest in Fred, which gets Daphne mad. Meanwhile, later that night, Daphne is researching the missing kids in the school library, and she finds out that a lot of the information was either cut or torn up. The lights suddenly go out and someone runs past Daphne, so she goes to the locker room only to see a scary figure in the mirror. It only turns out to be Alice May, and Daphne tries to say how Alice is being suspicious. Daphne and Scooby start getting chased by the ghost girl until they reunite with Velma and Shaggy, which allows for them to hide unharmed. For some reason, Fred tells everyone that he's going to prom with Alice, even though Daphne dropped many obvious hints that she wanted to go with him. Daphne manages to convince Fred to not go with Alice, which in turn makes Alice mad, and she swears to get revenge. I wonder who the mysterious creature of the episode could be. The ghost girl arrives in the gym and starts attacking everyone until Fred traps her. Alice turns out to be the ghost girl and she reveals that she wanted revenge on the gang for getting her father arrested. She was a child when this happened and she's also supposed to be the same age as the mystery gang, so we don't understand what's really happening. Alice's backpack also contains a yearbook that reveals the name of the missing children for Brad Childs, Judy Reeves, Ricky Owens, Cassidy Williams, and the pet bird named Professor Pericles. This cast of characters were also called Mystery Incorporated. Alice is somehow bailed out by Mr. E's associate named Ed Machine, and we find out that she actually lied about everything, including her being the daughter of Deacon Carlswell. Her main purpose was to give our characters the yearbook, which means that Mr. E is planning something involving the gang, and also them investigating the missing children. In Fear of the Phantom is the title of episode 7. Some personal favorite characters, the Hex Girls, are performing in front of a huge crowd. A phantom suddenly appears on stage and wants the Hex Girls to quit. Everyone ignores him until he causes the amplifier to fall on one of the Hex Girls named Thorn and knocks her out. The gang and everyone else decide to have a double in place for Thorn, and Velma wants the role at first. Daphne gets chosen and she gets mad because she realizes that she's just being used as bait. I feel like Daphne should know that the only thing on Fred's mind is his traps. The concert starts again and the Phantom appears. The trap somehow falls on the other two girls and the Phantom manages to take Daphne with him. Similar to the Man Crab episode, Fred starts to have another breakdown. Shaggy and Scooby start to beef with each other. Fred also finds out that his trap was sabotaged with lotion and he's confused on his feelings for Daphne. But it turns out that Daphne could actually hear him the whole time. Daphne was then found by a janitor. But she's mad at Fred because the last thing she heard from his mouth was, "I wish I didn't care about her." Daphne throws a blanket at Fred and then leaves with the Hex Girls. Scooby arrives on the scene with a dummy and says that it's his new best friend. Fred goes to meet Daphne, but she kicks him out. Scooby and Shaggy then get chased by the Phantom, and they realize that the fabric from the Phantom's cape is oddly similar to the costume of a pop singer named Fancy Pants. They all go to meet him, but he says that he can never be the Phantom. Daphne comes onto stage with her own song about Fred, and he finally finds out what she's been going through. The Phantom tries to grab Daphne only for it to be Harry the Puppet. The culprit is indeed Fancy Pants, who reveals that he wanted to get revenge on the X-Girls. Fred finally admits his feelings for Daphne and they stop fighting. Scooby also makes up with Shaggy, and we can see Velma watching from the back after not contributing at all this episode. The Grasp of the Gnome is the title of episode 8. A person named Ben surprises Jen with a pirate costume at the Royal Knights Fair. He then goes into an alley and tries to adjust his costume just to be attacked by a gnome. Jen finds him and is terrified when the gnome rushes away and she sees Ben turning blue with a scared expression. We meet Joe Littlefoot, his wife Amanda, Lord Barry, and some more people. Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby are with each other while Fred and Daphne are exploring. They find out about the gnome attacks when they see someone being placed into an ambulance. 2 more people dressed as pirates then become paralyzed by the gnome. They discover an earring and think that the owner might be responsible for this. More people in pirate costumes are then getting attacked, which raises concern for Shaggy and Scooby, who are also dressed up. The toxin that paralyzes the victims turns out to be a jellyfish toxic that causes paralysis for a little bit. Lord Barry and Jill Littlefoot are seen having an argument. Shaggy and Scooby get attacked by the gnome after spying on Barry, and Scooby becomes unconscious while Shaggy goes missing. There is suddenly a phone call by Mr. E, who gives a clue which says begin your search at the end, which means that they should look at where Shaggy disappeared. Daphne discovers catwalks in the trees and all over the place, which is how the gnome moves around. Scooby finds Shaggy and then frees him. The gnome tries to paralyze Daphne only for her to reveal that the steel bracelets she's wearing block the toxin. The gnome is captured and actually turns out to be Jill Littlefoot. His reasoning was that he wanted to blame everything on his wife Amanda and take the fortune for himself. For some reason, Mayor Jones is mad at the gang for ruining another tourist attraction, even though people were getting paralyzed. A person dressed up as an executioner drops something near Velma, and it turns out to be a note from Mr. E, which says that they shouldn't give up, and this has all happened before. Another item from the box turns out to be the missing Mystery Incorporated, with a red circle on Professor Pericles. Battle of the Humungonauts is the title of episode 9. Sheriff Stone and the mayor are casually relaxing in a restaurant until a green monster destroys the whole place. Sheriff Stone thinks that it was staged after the creature left. We start getting somewhere of this love triangle when Scooby sees Shaggy kissing Velma, and everyone has mixed emotions. The gang questions Sheriff Stone about the green monster, but then a red-colored one destroys the building. While Velma and Scooby are fighting over Shaggy, Fred announces that they will be known as Mystery Incorporated. A person named Rusty Nails, who is a contractor, is suspected after he states how he wants to make the creatures his partners. After a situation in which Shaggy and Scooby don't talk to each other, the green monster causes more havoc. Mr. E contacts them and gives them a riddle which consists of looking at all of the signs around them. Both of the monsters start fighting each other, and Fred's trap manages to capture them both. The culprits were Max and Jax Miner, who are owners of insurance companies, and they confessed how they couldn't stand each other. They wanted to destroy each other's business. The episode ends with Shaggy and Velma once again forcing Shaggy to choose. Scooby and Velma forcing Shaggy to choose, but he suddenly runs away. Howl of the Fright Hound is the title of episode 10. An asylum is attacked by a hound creature, so they decide to lock down. This person named Jason Wyatt, who is old friends with Velma, now wants a relationship with her, and he then gets rejected. We see Velma's mom, also known as Angie Dinkley, have a tour bus, which then gets attacked by the mysterious hound monster. For some reason, Sheriff Stone thinks that it was Scooby and places him in an animal asylum with other very dangerous creatures. One of these dangerous creatures actually turns out to be Professor Pericles, who was one of the original members of Mystery Incorporated. His warning to Fred is to be aware of those who seem the closest to him. After finding a robotic leg at the crime scene, they suspect Wyatt because of him wanting to be closer with Velma. After getting attacked by the Fright Hound, they try to convince the sheriff that Scooby is innocent, but he pays them no mind. After a report is made about their Fright Hound, the gang thinks of a plan to use the machinery of the factory to crush the robot hound. Scooby then finishes it off with the bulldozer, and they also capture the person behind everything. The culprit isn't actually Jason Wyatt, but instead it's his mother, who blamed Mystery Incorporated for the bullying that Jason went through. Jason accepts the rejection from Velma, but hold on a second, Shaggy decides to end their relationship with Velma. As we see Velma crying, we also learn that Pericles has escaped from the asylum. Velma gets a text from Mr. E, which tells them to follow the parrot. The Secret Serum is the title of episode 11. Nan, Blake, and Shyla and Toonin are hosting a charity art function until a vampire swoops down and steals one of the paintings. They split into two groups because of the ongoing tension. Daphne and Velma are staying at Daphne's mansion, but then Daphne's mom sneaks out of the house at night, which raises concern. They follow her and then meet up with Fred's group consisting of Fred, Shaggy, and Scooby. The vampire creature attacks them and steals an orchid. After looking for possible connections within the library, an unseen person throws a book down, and there's a recipe for an internal use serum, which is what the vampire is trying to make. They travel to the restaurant that has the specific type of wine, but they can't prevent the vampire from stealing it and then escaping. They also notice Nan Blake at the restaurant and start to suspect her. They follow the vampire and capture her. It turns out to be the other person at the beginning of the episode named Shyla Antunen, who admits her jealousy for Nan Blake not aging, so she must have been a vampire. Another case was solved, although the tension still remains and everyone struggles with it. We also see Mystery Incorporated being watched by one of Mr. E's agents. The Shrieking Madness is the title of the 12th episode. A Harlan Ellison fan makes fun of people for reading H.P. Haycraft's book, which is known as Char Char Guckathon. He suddenly gets attacked by the creature after going to the car park. Each of the gang goes their separate ways, with Fred going to do some sort of wrestling. Daphne goes to a center. Shaggy and Scooby are seen ordering food, and Velma is attending a lecture where a professor named Howard E. Roberts questions Ellison about books. Ellison then gets attacked by the creature, and there appears to be a book at the scene, with some underlined phrases. After visiting Professor Haycraft, who's worried that his book actually created real monsters, Fred tries to convince everyone to work together, but they all walk away. They then notice Professor Haycraft spying on them, and he says how his writings are basically a fraud. The creature then captures Professor Haycraft and escapes with him. Before Professor Haycraft perishes to his ultimate demise, they capture the monster, and it's revealed to be Howard E. Roberts, who was the fan in the classroom. At the end of the episode, another clue is left behind by Mr. E with a box showing the Darrow family archives. When the Cicada Calls is the title of episode 13. A person named Kelsey Payne, who works for a hazardous company, is called by a mysterious person, and after ignoring the call, he is then attacked by the cicada monster and all the little cicadas. They find a letter from Mr. E who says there's a mystery at the hospital. The first employee is getting treated, and they visit another employee by the name of Hugh Dettergy, who got attacked in the shower. They are taken to the basement in the elevator, and they get threatened by the cicada creature, who tells them to stop the investigation. Fred wants to prove that the creature is a professor named Dr. Rick Yance, and his sole purpose for this is just because Daphne is interested in him. After some tension between Dr. Rick Yance and Fred, which also involves the mayor and the sheriff, we see Ed Machine being attacked by the creature. Shaggy and Scooby get surprised by the cicada monster after trying to follow Dr. Rick Yance in this ride to the Cicada Festival. They use a trap in which the mystery machine has a vacuum attached to it, and they uncover the culprit. The person turns out to actually be a person named Grandma Moonbeam. Earlier in the episode, she was revealed to be the creator of Nature Silver Bars, which is one of Shaggy and Scooby's favorite snacks, and she was going also to visit Hugh Daterdy, who got attacked. Her reasoning was how the hazardous company was changing the original recipe of her snacks and turning it into a more unhealthy version. Shaggy suggests that they all go out to celebrate, but Daphne admits how she is a date with Fred. At the end of the episode, Daphne and Fred are trapped in the building for hours and have to wait until the morning to get out. Daphne was having a good time though, which I guess is a positive for this relationship. The title of episode 14 is Mystery Solvers Club State Finals. This episode is basically a filler and a crossover, so I'm going to briefly go over it. Scooby has a dream which involves Jabberjaw, Funky Phantom, Speed Buggy, and Captain Caveman. Everyone gets attacked by this creature named Infernius, and then they uncover him. Scooby wakes up and is sad that he's the reason why everyone missed the competition because he slept in. But they reveal to him how they postponed it and that he's an important member of the team who isn't just a sidekick. The title of the 15th episode is The Wild Brood. In a cafe, some drama happens between the leader of a motorcycle gang and the Wild Brood members. Fred brings Daphne to the Tiki Hub, which got repaired after everything involving the Humungonaut. For some reason, Fred decided to also bring Shaggy, Daphne, and Velma on his date. The Brood members arrive and they get rejected by Sheriff Stone. The leader of the gang does some philosophical speaking and somehow manages to make Daphne and Velma leave with him. Daphne and Velma then go out to hang out with the Brood gang. A biker also steals a rocket launcher during the night and he drops a piece of paper. The gang and Sheriff Stone inform Daphne that the monster creatures were responsible for breaking in and stealing the rocket launcher. Daphne and Velma don't believe this until they see security footage. All of the clues lead them to a cafe and tea house named Chen's. While questioning the bikers, a message from Mr. E comes on the screen which shows a dancing fish with a sword nose. Before Velma can access the IP address on the napkin and type swordfish as the password, she gets abducted by another monster who's not part of the original biker gang. Everyone else figures out that the clue is sword nose and they go to tell Velma, but find out that she and Scooby are both missing. The rebellious orc that kidnapped Velma and has Scooby hanging over the cliff on a rope tells Velma how she will help him reroute a train through Crystal Cove, or else Scooby will die. The orc pushes Velma, but then Scooby rescues her and they both become safe. Swordfish turns out to be a secret video game that is being shipped by programmers who dressed up as orcs. The orc uses the rocket to destroy a bridge ahead after the mystery gang and the bikers jump on the same train as him. Fred and the leader of the orcs, whose name is Oddnarb, I should have mentioned that before, fight with the shadow orc. They manage to stop the wagon, but the engine falls into the ravine. The culprit is a person named Maxwell, whose reasoning was how he wasn't allowed to go join in on the beta testing of the games. So he made this costume in order to destroy the Swordfish console. Daphne chooses Fred over Oddnarb, who then accepts this and rides away with his gang. The episode ends with Fred celebrating. Where Walks Aphrodite is the title of episode 16. The goddess of love appears at the high school soccer game and manages to cast a spell which makes everyone fall in love with everything. Shaggy realizes there's a substitute teacher the next day, but it actually turns out to be the Aphrodite monster who blows flowers into his face, which makes him into another mindless person. The rest of Mystery Incorporated also become infected over the day except for Scooby. Aphrodite tries to entrance Scooby, but he's somehow immune to the spell. He gets chased by all of the other mind-controlled people. He runs into an alley, but wait, there's already someone waiting there. It turns out to be Professor Pericles, who had previously escaped from prison. Scooby really doesn't trust Pericles, although he says he just wants to help the town. We see Pericles and Scooby go on a journey exploring churches, museums, and even mines. They find what they need and create a green liquid. Aphrodite finds them and once again sends her mind-controlled people after Scooby and Pericles. They are luckily able to spray the antidote on the rest of the gang and convert them back to normal. Angel Dynamite saves them by driving the mystery machine. We find out that Aphrodite was a girl in school who got laughed at because of the prom dress she was wearing. After finding out her real name is Amanda Smythe, they make a lot of canisters that hold the antidote. They dress up as normal people and manage to convert everyone back to normal while also trapping Aphrodite in the process. She wanted to destroy the town the same way that I destroyed her during the prank at prom night. We think everything is good, but it turns out the Ed machine shows a recorded message at Pericles saying how he orchestrated the whole Aphrodite situation. He was responsible for giving her the formula, and his main goal was to search for objects that helped him find out the true meaning of the Curse of Crystal Cove. Pericles, while pretending to help Scooby, he found an ancient conquistador ship manifest, an industrial gray diamond bit, and reports from the Darrow Mining Company. We finally learn about the curse when Ed Machine says how everything traces back to a deep treasure that is buried deep within the town, and if Pericles finds it, then Crystal Cove would be done for. Escape from Mystery Manor is the title of episode 17. We start off with a flashback from many years ago when all 4 members of the Darrow family were fighting over a pizza-shaped object only for the ground to swallow the whole mansion. Angel Dynamite explains that Mr. E left her the diary of Cassidy Williams. The last entry from the diary stated how they were going to explore the Darrow Mansion, which is now Darrow University. They then find a chimney at the lowest area of the university and he brings them to the mansion. A voice is suddenly heard from the radio and it mistakes them as the original Mystery Incorporated. Many traps are in the mansion, such as the pit of spikes, a buzzsaw, and even falling swords. They fall into a pit and lose consciousness. Daphne and Fred are tied into a pool when they wake up. The speaker says that Daphne will drown while Fred survives. He still mistakes them as the old Mystery Incorporated, so he refers to them as Judy and Brad. Fred escapes and saves the both of them with no harm done. Shaggy, Scooby, and Velma are also woken up only to see themselves in a maze of wires with sharp objects. We manage to also escape the trap and then meet up with Fred and Daphne. An old man by the name of Danny Darrows starts to chase them and he says he wants his treasure back. After tricking him and capturing him, he explains that they don't look like the old Mystery Incorporated anymore, and he tells them about what happened on that tragic Halloween night. Every other family member died while Danny was left alone with the treasure. He put traps around the whole place after the original Mystery Incorporated came over, but they never returned. The house begins to shake and Danny tells them to leave with the treasure. While they wonder if there could be more pieces, we see Mayor Jones drive off after watching them. The Dragon's Secret is the title of episode 18. A woman enters a pawn shop with the panda ring and asks to see the jewelry, but she's told it's not for sale. After the woman leaves, a man enters and says he wants the ring. The ring he was looking for has actually been replaced with the panda ring by the woman, and he suddenly creates white lightning. Velma introduces the woman we just met, whose name is Mei Lee. She also appears to have an interest in Shaggy. They invite her to a dinner hosted by Daphne's parents. During the dinner, the lights go out and a wizard in red lightning appears. Fred tries to activate his trap, but Daphne's parents get mad at him for setting it up behind their backs. Fred tries to apologize to Daphne until the white lightning appears. The red wizard then makes his entrance and starts fighting with the white wizard. One detail that Velma notices is how the white wizard has 3 rings, just like Mei Lee. The white wizard grabs Mei Lee and wants the ring back. They finally escape after some close calls. Velma and Mei Lee get attacked at Velma's parents' house, and the white wizard finally manages to get the ring. The owner of Chen's restaurant admits how he's actually the red wizard, and they then set up a trap for the white wizard. They capture the wizard, who turns out to be a person named Mr. Wang. whose only purpose was to discover the dragon's heart. Mei Li says she has to return to China, and Shaggy gets sad when she denies the chance of seeing her. While on the boat, we actually see that Mei Li stole the dragon's heart while everyone else was talking. But it turns out that Shaggy followed her and manages to trap her with the help of the gang. Night Fright is the title of episode 19. While Scooby and Shaggy are watching a Vincent Van Gogh movie, they hear a door open and are scared only for it to be Vincent Van Gogh himself. He explains how Shaggy and Scooby won the essay competition at dinner with him. Vincent also says he feels like eyes are watching him and there are creatures everywhere. Suddenly at his house, the mutant bee appears and then Dr. Phobos also appears. They then get scared by Professor Jansen. Apparently these are all of the movie monsters of Vincent Van Gogh, just for some context. They meet one particular creature who takes down the rest of the monsters and says his name is Night Fright. He then flies away. Vincent Van Gogh confesses that actors were playing the creatures, but Night Fright is actually real. Night Fright once again appears and they manage to escape from him. Vincent brings down bars onto the creature, but he doesn't remain trapped for long. Velma is then informed about the situation and tells Daphne and Fred. Once Night Fright disappears again, the rest of the mystery gang arrive. They capture him at the trap and it turns out to be a person named Argus Bentonproof. He was the writer of Night Fright and he was mad at Vincent for making his script better. He was also then forgotten about. The episode ends with Mystery Incorporated refusing to have their own show. The Siren Song is the title of episode 20. Skipper Shelton's brother and his crewmen are attacked by some sort of fish creatures. Daphne and Fred see a statue of Scooby-Doo's nephew, also known as Scrappy-Doo, but they promise not to talk about him. Velma is bored because of no new mysteries, but she then gets an email about the missing sardines that could have some possible connections. She tries to get into contact with the rest of the gang, but Shaggy and Scooby are eating while Fred and Daphne are on another date. Velma is having trouble finding anything in the fog until a mermaid named Amy appears and says she gave her the warning. Velma then gets away from the fish creatures before they attack her. Velma tells the gang about the mysterious mermaids. The fish creatures also appear after Mystery Incorporated leave. Amy, who is the good mermaid, informs Velma that the fish freaks captured Skipper Shelton. Velma's mom is also asking about who Velma is talking to. And you have to keep in mind that they are currently at Velma's house. Ed Machine, the CEO of Destroido, is also holding a press conference. Velma asks for permission to go to the oil platform, but he says no. The oil platform is deserted when they arrive until the fish freaks appear and capture them. The goal of these fish monsters is to drill for oil, which will then cause a massive oil spill. Amy then arrives and frees everyone. They capture the culprits and it turns out to be Ernesto and his followers. We heard about Ernesto before, who was portrayed as a radical idealist who wanted to protect Mother Earth. They also learn about how the company Destroido covered up an incident many years ago and it was never reported. At the end of the episode, we see a shocking scene in which Velma accuses Angel Dynamite of actually being one of the original Mystery Incorporated members, also known as Cassidy Williams. Menace of the Manticore is the title of episode 21. A couple named Brenda and Dylan are a spooky terrorland until their ride stops and the Manticore attacks them. These two might actually have the worst luck of all time. They were also the same people who got attacked by the man crab in episode 4. Angel tries to sneak into Destroido but is caught by Ed Machine. Angel then wants to meet up with Mr. E. She tells Mr. E how the new Mystery Incorporated members retrieved some planispheric disk. They talk about how there is a lot of concern, especially with Pericles being free. Mr. E says that as long as Fred is alive, the other two will not move, which is pretty confusing. Fred and his dad team up for the first time after the mayor says how the Manticore might actually be his fault because of how the Manticore is hurting tourism. The owner of the park turns out to be Winslow Fletch, and we also see his daughter, who might have one of the craziest names ever, Hot Dog Water. Velma also remembers her from the science fair circuit. The Manticore appears and chases them in the temple, but they manage to escape. Velma realizes that the website the mayor used was fake, and only someone with a lot of good computer knowledge could have actually made the website. Angel talks with Velma about her real identity and also wonders where the disc is. Mayor Jones explains that he found the website through an internet search. Shaggy and Scooby are grabbed by the Manticore while on a ride and they get dropped on a bouncy castle. Fletcher and Hot Dog Water are both in favor of closing the park, but Fred states that they will make the park succeed no matter what. Velma also finds Mayor Jones going through Fred's drawers. She admits to Fred that she gave the disc piece to Shaggy and Scooby. The creature turns out to be none other than Hot Dog Water and says that she would have become rich by turning the steel rides into helium and selling it to the Australian Zeppelin fleet. The end of the episode concludes with Angel admitting to Mr. E that she put a bug on Velma and they know that Shaggy and Scooby have the disc. Mr. E says that Scooby is a lot more trustworthy than Pericles ever was. Attack of the Headless Horror is the title of episode 22. We see Dr. Rick Spartan, his wife, and a person named Kachinga entering the Amazon. The wife, whose name is Marion, breaks her ankle, so Kachinga has to go back for a medicine kit. We also see Dr. Rick Spartan become terrified after a headless creature surprises him. The new biology teacher turns out to be the same person we just met, Dr. Rick Spartan, and Fred is suddenly excited. Spartan invites them over for dinner after Fred asks about the headless creature. While they have dinner, the headless monster attacks and before it leaves, it says that it will stay with Spartan forever. Velma says she knows someone who might be able to break the curse, and it actually turns out to be her mother. While trying to bury the head, the creature once again appears and attacks Spartan before leaving. Spartan announces that he's quitting and his wife, Marion, becomes excited. Sheriff Stone arrests Kachinga because he might be the headless creature. After they trap the creature with another one of Fred's traps, it actually turns out to be the wife of Spartan, who states how she didn't want her husband to go back to the jungle. Dr. Rick Spartan decides not to press charges, and the episode concludes with Velma saying she just wants to be friends with Shaggy. A Haunting in Crystal Cove is the title of episode 23. While Mayor Jones is examining his own planispheric disk, Fred wakes up in the middle of the night only to see his dad being chased by a shadowy figure. Shaggy and Scooby decide to spend the night at Fred's house. Mayor Jones is once again screaming because objects are flying everywhere around the house. After escaping outside, they notice the figure once again upstairs. Fred tells his dad he will give up on mystery solving forever if he can't solve this case. After inviting a person named Lady Marmalade to the house, she brings out a Ouija board, and it says that the person is an old friend and wants what was taken from him. Everyone escapes the house except for Mayor Jones. He gets pulled back in. After looking at the security cameras, they notice that Fred's dad was never grabbed, and he just closed the door on himself. After pinning down the shadowy figure, it actually turns out to be Professor Pericles. He wanted to get the planispheric disc from the mayor who stole it from him a while ago. Pericles manages to escape with the disc while the episode ends with everyone being dumped into a cellar. Dead Justice is the title of episode 24. Sheriff Stone and Mystery Incorporated are trying to capture a villain known as the Piranha Goat, but someone named Dead Justice makes the capture instead of them. He also arrests a lot more people before Sheriff Stone can. Sheriff Stone expects to win another annual Crimes Award after winning it for 27 years in a row, but the award is actually given to Dead Justice. After the gang agree to help Sheriff Stone with his own investigation, they get attacked by Dead Justice with bullets. Sheriff Stone informs them about Iron Will Williamson, who was the first sheriff of Crystal Cove and how he died in a volcano while going after a bank robber. They investigate a person named Night Ranger who was a blogger who was being critical about Sheriff Stone. Dead Justice then shows up, but they manage to escape with the help of Night Ranger. Mayor Jones eventually drives to them and says that Sheriff Stone is fired because Dead Justice is doing a better job but for free. Sheriff Stone then dresses up as the bank robber who died years ago, and they finally manage to capture Dead Justice. The person was actually Deputy Bucky, who was present for many of the previous arrests in the series. His reason was that he wanted to get the sheriff's job because he was tired of being a deputy, and he also failed all of the exams. Sheriff Stone is awarded the trophy that was given to Dead Justice prior. The episode ends with Fred putting an onion ring on Daphne's finger and they finally kiss. They talk about getting married even though they're still in high school. Pawn of Shadows is the title of episode 25. We get a flashback to 20 years ago when the old Mystery Incorporated found a picture of the planispheric disk, and we also see a terrifying figure watching them. After Scooby mentions a hot sauce brand, Velma realizes that the writing on the disc is backwards and also in Spanish. They go to Darrow University in order to employ the help of H.P. Haycraft. After asking the professor, they go outside only to see the mystery machine blow up. A robotic figure whose name is Obliterix announces that her only purpose is to destroy Mystery Incorporated. They luckily manage to escape her. Angel, Dynamite, and Mr. E are also watching the gang on the monitors, and they discuss whether or not they should intervene since Pericles might be behind everything. They realize that the mystery machine is actually still all good, and they find it. Obliterix appears once again and they manage to escape all of her deadly weapons. It's revealed that Pericles considered helping the gang with this new enemy, but he decided that he needed them alive. After Obliterix almost blows up the gang, Angel Dynamite comes to their aid and unmasks the figure, only for it to be Alice May, who is also the ghost girl. She reveals how Mr. E helped to release her from prison and that all the weapons weren't dangerous at all. The goal was to draw Pericles away from his planispheric disk. Angel finally admits to everyone that she is indeed Cassidy Williams and how the original members were all threatened after finding a map. Fred refuses to give their piece of the disk to Mr. E or even Pericles. The episode concludes with the gang driving off while Angel tells them that the freak is still there, and we see him watching from the top of the church. All Fear the Freak is the 26th and final episode of season 1. It's also one of the highest rated episodes of the whole show. In another flashback 20 years ago, we see how the original Mystery Incorporated opened the chest, which actually had one of the discs. But when they opened it, it turned out to be a trap which they escaped from. We go back to the present and see Velma message the rest of the gang the word midnight. After Fred's dad says he disapproves of Fred's antics, he still loves him. Fred then steals a key to the city hall. They meet up at the city hall and everyone gets mad at Velma when she didn't tell them about Angel being Cassidy. But then Velma tells Shaggy that he chose Scooby over her. While looking in the mayor's office, they manage to find a drawing of the full planispheric disk. Before they can leave, they encounter the freak of Crystal Cove. They also run into Sheriff Stone right after this. They get thrown into prison and a lot of drama happens when all of the parents arrive. After getting released, Fred tells Shaggy and Scooby to make sure the scroll is safe. We see Angel call Ed Machine. It's revealed to us that the pieces of the disc are actually hidden in a pizza box at Shaggy's house. The freak attacks them and before they get caught, Ed Machine tells Shaggy and Scooby to get into his car. Angel wants a truce of Mystery Incorporated, but they lock her in the studio and then leave. While Angel tries to call Ed, we see that Pericles actually kills him. They go to the old Spanish church, which is where the mystery first began. After they find the coordinates to the treasure, Pericles soon arrives and is about to steal the piece. The freak of Crystal Cove also appears and attacks Pericles, and then he quickly leaves with the disc. Before the freak is about to fall to his death off a cliff, Fred saves him and tackles him to the ground. Everyone arrives at the scene, including Cassidy, Sheriff Stone, and the parents of Mystery Incorporated. Everyone is shocked to learn that the freak is actually Fred's father, Mayor Jones. Mayor Jones explains how he came to the town just to search for the supposed cursed treasure. He searched for the disc, but he had no luck at all. He then made a truce with Pericles to take the piece from the original Mystery Incorporated. After driving the old members out of town, he drugged Pericles, which made him get arrested. And then Pericles was put into the asylum after that. The mayor also reveals that Fred's true parents are Judy Reeves and Brad Childs, who were a part of the original gang. The mayor took Fred from them, and Fred storms off in anger. Fred also announces to Daphne that he doesn't want to get engaged anymore and says he will leave the town in order to find his real parents. Shaggy's parents also announce to Shaggy that he will be sent to military school and Scooby will live on a farm. Daphne blames Velma for everything and they both go their separate ways. At the end of the episode, we see Professor Pericles holding two of the pieces, and Scooby says that he will get the gang back together. This concludes the end of Season 1. While Season 1 was pretty good with some interesting monsters, I will say that Season 2 ramps everything up by a lot. Now let's get into Season 2. The Night the Clown Cried is the first episode of the season and the 27th overall episode. Months have gone by ever since Mystery Incorporated split up. A new villain by the name of Crybaby Clown is currently terrorizing the town. He then chases Sheriff Bronson and throws an exploding bottle at his car, but he manages to escape in time. We also see the new mayor, whose name is Janet Nettles, and she realizes that things are getting really bad. A mysterious person appears and gives the mayor a folder and also tells her that she needs to rebuild the Mystery Incorporated gang. Only the location of Scooby is revealed for now. Scooby is stuck in solitary confinement until the mayor picks him up. We also see Shaggy, who is with his bunker mates. Scooby appears and rescues Shaggy with a tank. We see Fred with ripped clothes and a beard going door to door asking people if they've seen Brad Childs or Judy Reeves. The rest of the Mystery Incorporated gang managed to convince Fred to help solve the mystery. The Crybaby Clown finds the three of them until Fred is ensnared by one of his own traps. The mysterious figure we saw in the beginning of the episode appears and it actually turns out to be Velma. They all discuss how bad the city has gotten and Fred decides to get Daphne back. After arriving at a restaurant, they notice Daphne going on a date with a movie star named Baylor Hotner. Daphne first thinks that Fred is actually a homeless person, which leaves him broken. After showing up at a meeting at the city hall about the Crybaby Clown, he himself arrives with a bomb disguised as a diaper. I also need to add that all of the citizens were celebrating the return of Mystery Incorporated. When they go over to Daphne's house to recruit her, she just refers to them as kids from high school, which is kinda crazy. Even after she shuts the door on them, Fred is convinced that she will eventually return. They then set up a trap at a donut shop, but it fails because Fred was expecting Daphne to return, which doesn't happen. The Crybaby Clown creates a chain of explosions and fires across Crystal Cove. Fred is depressed because the villain escaped, and he exclaims that Mystery Incorporated can't be the thing without Daphne. The House of the Nightmare Witch is the second episode of season 2 and the 28th overall episode. Velma and Hot Dog Water plan to break into Baba Yaga's house because they are working for Mr. E. Baba Yaga comes to life after they leave and she attacks the guard. When Fred returns back to school, two kids named Gary and Ethan are mad at him because they had to forfeit the championship. Velma somehow convinces everyone that Hot Dog Water should be allowed into the group in order to replace Daphne. The rest of the gang welcome her in, although Fred is still depressed. Two more people are attacked by Baba Yaga's house. Velma and Marcy, who is Hot Dog Water, get attacked by the creature and they manage to escape while also noticing a trail of black liquid. Shaggy overhears a conversation between Mr. E and Velma. Shaggy also hears Mr. E telling Velma and Marcy to retrieve it no matter what. Shaggy then relays his information to Fred and Scooby, who are shocked. Velma and Marcy discover one of the planispheric discs after following the black liquid. After being caught, Velma admits how she only teamed up with Mr. E because there was no other option, and this was the best way to prevent Pericles from obtaining the disc. The house tosses them out after waking up. Baba Yaga threatens all of them if they ever come back. After the house falls, Baba Yaga comes out and the culprit is someone named Kurator Vronsky. He disguised himself as Baba Yaga in order to sell the Fabergé eggs on the black market. At the end of the episode, Mr. E questions Marcy about Velma double-crossing him, and he announces that the gang's days are numbered. The Night the Clown Cried Part 2, Tears of Doom is the third episode of Season 2 and the 29th overall episode. After Fred leaves his meeting with the psychiatrist about Daphne, the crybaby clown comes in and kidnaps Dr. Henkelfest. Fred also comes back and is confused about what happened. When Daphne wakes up one day, she finds out that Fred towed her bed to the beach in order to have a picnic, but she tells him to move on. Velma gets angry after it seems like no one cares about solving the mystery, but Marcy reassures her that they will solve it. Angel Dynamite goes to a hair salon and gets her hair cut by a person named Gorgeous. But while in the bathroom, she encounters Mr. E, and Mr. E says that they are coming back for Fred. And we also see the clown kidnapping Gorgeous G. Shaggy goes to the plastic surgeon's office only to realize that he got pinned to the wall by Crybaby Clown. After Velma and Marcy rig up a radio to pick up the same signal that they found at the salon, they set up the trap only for it to capture Daphne in the process. The clown tries to kidnap Daphne until Fred rescues her. The press then arrive after being alerted by a person named J.R. Kipple. Baylor Hotner reveals that he and Daphne are going to leave for Hollywood. Fred then enters a catatonic state after hearing this tragic piece of information. Mystery Incorporated starts to suspect J.R. Kipple, but once they arrive at his home, they see the baby clown kidnapping him. The crybaby clown is on a jet while all of his kidnapped victims are tied down. The villain is surprised to see that the flight crew got replaced with Shaggy and Scooby. Velma and Hot Dog Water also fall out of the ramp after the plane starts up. Fred manages to jump on the plane after using the mystery machine. Fred knocks the clown out after the plane gets thrown around by lightning. The clown is revealed to be Baylor Hotner, who wanted to research what it would take to become a crazy clown for his upcoming movie. Daphne breaks up with Baylor and she accepts the invitation to join Mystery Incorporated again. The episode ends on a sad note as Velma notices Marcy, who looks sad. Web of the Dreamweaver is the fourth episode of season 2 and the 30th overall episode. A person named Horbort Feist wakes up from a terrible dream and then jumps out of his car before driving it into the Crystal Cove Bank. We see the Dreamweaver laughing in the flames. After Marcy leaves Mystery Incorporated due to her being replaced, she calls Mr. E and says that she has Velma right where she wants her. Mystery Incorporated hear about the crash and decide to investigate in order to get rid of the guilt regarding Marcy. They arrive at the place where Feist is being held, and he tells them about a dream where he was trapped in a maze and he was getting chased by the Dreamweaver, who mentioned something about a level 99. The next thing he remembers after that is crashing his car. A person named Francilli is also chased in a maze by the Dreamweaver, and she reveals on TV that her famous cornbread stuffing actually has no corn at all. While getting arrested for fraud, she becomes sad when talking to Sheriff Bronson Stone after he arrests her, even though they used to be childhood friends. Sheriff Stone denies this even ever knowing her, even though there seems to be proof. Francilli warns everyone that a person named Melville Casterbaum will be the next target. They arrive at the Casterbaum mansion right when it explodes. When Sheriff Stone arrives at the scene, Melvin warns him that he's next on the list. We then see a flashback to when Sheriff Stone was playing with all of the people who appeared in the episode as kids, and he now realizes that the Dreamweaver is coming after them because they stopped playing the game. Shaggy and Scooby fail to keep the sheriff awake and they all enter the dream labyrinth. Fred wakes them with a bucket of water and Shaggy notices one important detail, which is how the Dreamweaver holds its orb in the wrong hand. The Dreamweaver confronts Bronson once again in the dream, but he unmasks himself to be Fred. And then he unmasks himself again to be Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, and then Scooby. The Dreamweaver becomes scared by this and this causes the orb to break. Horbert Feist in the beginning of the episode is actually the Dreamweaver, and he reveals how he did this because Bronson Stone took away his game figure as a child. At the end of the episode, Brad Childs and Judy Reeves make an entrance and say how they're finally back. The Hodag of Horror is the 5th episode of season 2, and the 31st overall episode. While Shaggy and Scooby are enjoying an ice cream cone, a person named Gene Shepard sets up a cabinet of curiosities. Shaggy and Scooby view many exhibits and they dismiss them as fake. Later that night, one of Daphne's older sisters named Daisy Blake is attacked in her room. Fred's parents invited him to dinner and he asked them questions. Daisy then calls Daphne and informs her about the attack. It turns out that the creature stole a ruby necklace. After Velma sketches the creature, Scooby recognizes it as the thing he saw earlier, which was the Hodag of Horror. They visit the exhibit by Shepard, but the lights soon go out. The Hodag comes to life and tries to grab the key to the box. There's a party at the Blake Mansion to celebrate the return of Brad and Judy. We also see Hot Dog Water arrive and wave at Velma. The Hodag of Horror attacks the mansion and even takes Nova, who is the dog of Brad and Judy. All of the guests also discover that all of their jewelry is missing. They arrest Gene Shepard, but it seems like the mystery isn't solved yet. They capture the creature and it actually turns out to be a monkey. A person named Ned Busbuster appears while holding Nova, who is the dog. He explains how he learned to train a monkey to steal by using bells. Busbuster is arrested alongside his monkey. The mysterious object that Ned was after turned out to be a 500-year-old wheel of cheese. But wait, there's a crack in the cheese wheel and one of the planispheric discs is inside of it. At the end of the episode, we see Cassidy Williams, Brad Childs, Judy Reeves, and Mr. E all meet up. Pericles then appears and says he has a proposition for all of them. Art of Darkness is the 6th episode of the season and the 32nd overall episode. At an art exhibition, a person named Randy Warsaw reveals his masterpiece, but it eventually comes to life and eats a singer named Yoko. It then leaves her as a golden statue. Mayor Nettles arrives at the Mystery Incorporated office and wants them to solve the mystery. They arrive at the place and try to blend in. Randy introduces Velma to his muse named Cleo, who turns into a golden statue after the junk creature comes back to life. Brad and Judy also warn Cassidy to stay out of the way after she mentions how they should think of Fred instead of the treasure. While Daphne is talking to worker number 1, they both get attacked by junk. Fred's trap stops the monster, and it's revealed that they found the paralysis was caused by a strand of brewer's yeast, which is how they reversed the effect. The culprit is a person named Butch Fairbanks who wanted to take revenge on Randy because Randy turned him into a dark band leader. When they drive away, we see Angel Dynamite or Cassidy Williams talking on the radio about the evil within Crystal Cove. The Gathering Gloom is the 7th episode of season 2 and the 33rd overall episode. While the mayor is hosting a movie night at the cemetery, which is displaying a Vincent Van Gogh movie, a real ghoul comes and scares everyone. Mystery Incorporated notice a person named Avala who oddly looks very similar to the ghoul. The gang then go over to a house which is owned by the Bjorklunds, which consists of a mother named Motor and her 3 daughters. While Velma is walking around looking for clues, she gets approached by Mr. E but walks away. Pericles then talks to Mr. E about working together, but Mr. E declines the offer. The ghoul creature breaks into the house and the gang fight him off. Velma keeps insisting that they need to spy on Avalo, but Shaggy, Fred, and Scooby are more interested in the woman inside of the house. We also see a flashback from Mr. E's perspective in which he nursed Pericles back to health when they were kids. While a concerned Scooby goes after Velma, they suddenly get attacked by the ghoul and manage to escape. They catch the graveyard ghoul, and it actually turns out to be Avalo who wanted to steal the gas in order to show that he was worthy of his family's evil name. Motor and her daughters decide to move back to their old country, which greatly disappoints Shaggy, Fred, and Scooby. Mr. E, who goes by Ricky, teams up with Pericles and they both decide to get rid of Cassidy Williams. Night on Haunted Mountain is the 8th episode of season 2 and the 34th overall episode. Gary and Ethan are climbing Mount Diablo until they get attacked by a creature by the name of Dark Lilith. They lose the lucky soccer ball in the process and both get injured. The gang tries to investigate only for Dark Lilith to attack them while being in a camp filled with hillbillies. A hillbilly by the name of Ugly Jimmy catches Daphne's interest because he's handsome and muscular. He also decides to help the gang solve the mystery, while an amnesiac named Boron leads them to Dark Lilith's hideout. She appears intact and attacks Jimmy. They notice that she's guarding a ship and they discover one of the planispheric discs inside of it. They also find a journal which is written by Spanish conquistadors who actually founded Crystal Cove. It talks about a sarcophagus which made everyone become mad due to power and wealth. They realized what they were doing and buried it deep underground. While Mystery Incorporated fight with Dark Lilith in order to get the disc, she gets attached to the mast of the ship and it comes crashing down. Velma faces Dark Lilith when she's walking away with the piece of the disc, and it actually turns out to be a hot dog water. This is honestly a twist that I myself wasn't expecting at all. She decides to give Velma the piece of the disc and says she won't come into contact with Mr. E ever again. The rest of the members question where Dark Lilith is and Velma says she flew away. Ugly Jimmy also became deformed and was later renamed to Handsome Jimmy by the hillbillies. Velma gets concerned about where the final piece of the disc is. We see a ghost of a conquistador ominously laughing and saying the word Nibiru. Grim Judgment is the 9th episode of season 2 and the 30th and the 35th overall episode. We see Brenda and Dylan once again, and at this point we're all just praying they don't get attacked. After already being attacked by the Manticore and the Man Crab, they are about to kiss until a man in Puritan clothes arrives with a huge hammer and tries to smash them. A person named Gary arrives and distracts the creature with the soccer ball, and then he manages to carry Brenda to safety. Brenda supposedly dumped Dylan for Gary after the gang noticed them kissing. Mystery Incorporated hears the story of how the Pilgrim destroyed Dylan's car. The Pilgrim attacks once again right after we see Sheriff Stone with the mayor. The Pilgrim doesn't seem to go after Velma though because she's a model of purity, as he says. We also see Gary rescuing a girl named Cheryl in the back of the van, which raises suspicion on how he was in the right place at the right time once again. They confront a person named Ethan who is Gary's friend, but then they suddenly get ambushed by the Pilgrim creature. While Ethan fights the creature, he gives them a clue about a person named Dougal McGinnis. They go to the person's house and notice a yearbook with circles around all of the victims. They confront Dougal only for him to get knocked out by the Pilgrim. Fred manages to set up a trap with the help of his parents, and they finally capture the villain. It's actually revealed that Gary and Ethan were both of the Grim creatures. One of them would scare the girls away while the other one would rescue them and become adored. They claimed that they were sneaky, although it seems like there were many clues to indicate otherwise. The episode ends with Cassidy Williams watching Fred being happy with his parents from the bushes. Night Terrors is the 10th episode of season 2 and the 36th overall episode. This is also one of the highest rated episodes of the show on IMDb. A family is staying for vacation at the library, but they get attacked by a figure which resembles the Egyptian god Anubis. We also see Mystery Incorporated driving to a ski resort until the mystery machine gets damaged, so they have to spend the night at the library. While Shaggy and Scooby are eating in the kitchen, they get attacked by the cook who then turns into a red monster. While Daphne is in the shower, she gets attacked by a Gorgon type of creature. We then see a scene of Shaggy and Daphne kissing, but while looking from Daphne's perspective, she sees Fred instead of Shaggy. Scooby thinks he sees Shaggy in a bathroom, but he gets attacked by the Anubis figure. He then wakes up and realizes that he's sleeping in his room. While Velma is in the library, she encounters an orangutan and also a phantom train which drives into the library. Fred sees Daphne and Shaggy snuggling together when breaking into Shaggy's room. When Fred and Scooby recover from the shock, Velma explains how they inhaled fumes and everything they saw was just hallucinations. They capture the Anubis masked figure and it turns out to be the manager whose name is Dan Funk. He wanted to forcefully close the library because he's been there since birth and he can't leave until it somehow closes, which is pretty fair. While discussing the situation outside, a book gets thrown at them which was created by whoever made the planispheric disc, and it also appears to be a sort of user manual. At the end of the episode, we see Cassidy Williams taking pictures of the Darrows and placing them in Velma's room so she can figure everything out. The Midnight Zone is the 11th episode of season 2 and the 37th overall episode. A robot which was designed to look like a Nazi soldier attacks Cassidy Williams at her radio station. It also self-destructs when she tries to fight back. The building is destroyed in the process and Sheriff Stone asks her about what happened. When the gang arrives, they see another robot get destroyed and they ask Cassidy about it. She explains how these Nazi robots have been attacking her over the last couple of weeks. When they realize that these robots are coming from the water, Daphne asks two kids named Tom and Tub, who she previously babysat, to help transport the gang to the submarine. When they reach a place called the Midnight Zone, they find the ruins of an old Spanish town that sank a while ago. The submarine is also attacked by the robots and they go over to an underwater base in order to repair it. They soon find out that this base is where the robots are actually being created. While looking at the decaying body of a person named Abigail Luke, they find out who the mastermind is, and it turns out to be none other than Professor Pericles. This lab was originally built for Abigail to find a piece of the planispheric disk, but she had no success. Pericles soon took over and kept all of the robots. He soon escapes while letting the laboratory self-destruct. Unfortunately, we see Cassidy Williams die as she helps everyone else escape. Scare bears the 12th episode of Season 2 and the 38th overall episode. While Sheriff Stone and Mayor Nels are preparing for a barbecue near Destroyed Oak Corp, they get attacked by a huge bear. The mayor calls Mystery Incorporated to hunt the bear since the sheriff can't investigate unless given permission by the company. While this is happening, we see Mr. E trying to convince Fred's parents to take the 3 planispheric discs from Mystery Incorporated. After the gang finds out that the water is contaminated with lithium, they get attacked by the scare bear. They get chased into an avocado orchard, which is actually owned by a George Avocados who is still mad at the gang. He also mentions how the water is turning his avocados into these spider mutants. While the gang is preparing to sneak into Destroido, we see Mr. E, Brad, and Judy sneak over to Velma's house with invisibility suits and wait for all of them to leave. Mr. E also plans to delay them with an ambush at Destroido. After narrowly escaping the scare bear, they come to a realization that it must have access to the building if it can actually get inside. They also see George Avocados getting into his car, which makes them suspicious. Mr. E wants Sheriff Stone to arrest the gang, but the mayor talks Bronson Stone out of it. Scooby and Shaggy somehow find a bomb which alerts everyone else. When being told about the bomb, the scare bear decides to help them. They unmask the scare bear and it turns out to be a security guard named Benson Furman, who they had seen earlier. His goal was to call out Destroido since their products gave him bear-like traits. He didn't get arrested because he actually had good intentions. There's still some concerns from Shaggy on who actually planted the bomb. We then see Pericles and Mr. E together who wonder if they can convince Brad and Judy to join them. Wrath of Krampus is the 13th episode of Season 2 and the 39th overall episode. This is also another pretty high-rated episode, and in my opinion, it may be a top 3 episode in the show. A young boy with bad manners is left in shock, and his hair becomes white after encountering a creature known as Krampus. Fred tells his parents he trusts them and shows the case where he keeps all of the discs. Velma also informs everyone about Nibiru, which is something that takes place every 3,600 years when all of the planets align. We see Brad and Judy try to steal the case only for them to realize that it's protected by lasers, so they give up for now. After Krampus scares Sheriff Stone and 3 roller skating girls, the gang manages to run away and come up with a plan. Fred expresses how the Krampus creature reminds him of his dad, Mayor Jones, not his real dad. While Pericles spies on them, he decides that Krampus will help with stealing the discs. In order to get more insight on the mystery, they decide to visit Mary Ann in prison, who was Kay Horrifico in Season 1. Krampus attacks the prison and also takes Mary Ann with him to an old doll factory. While they go inside to confront Krampus, Brad and Judy try once again to steal the discs. Krampus actually turns out to be Charlie the Haunted Robot, which was earlier shown to have been stolen. When the Mystery Incorporated gang go outside, they realize that a van suddenly drives off. Mr. E thinks he won, but he soon realizes that all of the disc pieces are gone. All that was left was a DVD from Mystery Incorporated. In a shocking plot twist, it's revealed that Mystery Incorporated were actually behind the mystery. They teamed up with Jason Wyatt, Mary Ann, and even Hot Dog Water, who stole Mr. E's planispheric pieces. Even Fred's former father, Mayor Jones, was also a part of the plan. In the video, Fred tells his parents that he's not coming to dinner, and Scooby-Doo also says that they are taking Nova with them. They reassemble the disc and the eyes within the coffin start glowing, and we can hear an evil voice saying Nibiru. Heart of Evil is the 14th episode of the series and the 40th overall episode. This episode is basically a filler and doesn't provide much to the plot, so I'm going to quickly skim over it. After Velma made a device to decipher the disc, they go find Blue Falcon and Dynamite fighting a dragon robot. A person named Zin is revealed to be controlling the dragon, and while he tries to grab Blue Falcon and his dog, he accidentally grabs Scooby. After some fighting, Zin says that he wanted to steal the Quest X Tower Cell in order to free his daughter from the dragon battlesuit. Dynamite uses a cable to remove Zin's daughter from the suit. Zin gives his appreciation and then self-destructs the island. The episode ends with Shaggy telling Blue Falcon to lighten up and talks about how Zin loves his daughter as much as they love their dogs. Theater of Doom is the 15th episode of Season 2 and the 41st overall episode. A person named Mr. Lee Frank is on a stage and is talking about how the town was saved. Dougal McGinnis, who we saw in a previous episode, is also there in order to play the friar in the play. After showing a box with the original friar in it, he comes to life and attacks them. Vincent Van Ghoul texts Shaggy and tells him about the destruction of the play and how they should help. We also see George Avocados once again, and he's working as a janitor. Heracles announced to Brad and Judy that they have to get the pieces back. Velma runs into the mummy of Friar Thurah and he grabs her. Valdesh Helgen Jew used to be the rival of Vincent Van Ghoul, and he's going to arrive at the play as a critic. The mummy tells the gang not to tell the story because it may awaken Nibiru. The gang have to participate in the play because of the absent cast, but they encounter the mummy on stage. The mummy turns out to be George Avocados, who just wanted to find the diamond stolen by his father. George Avocados was only the second mummy of Sarah. They go back to the basement and the mummy actually comes to life to tell them the truth about Crystal Cove. He reveals how it was the pet donkey who did it many years ago. Sarah's group met up with the conquistador and he told them about the curse while also leaving 2 pieces behind. Sarah's group quickly became very obsessed with the mystery. The dark entity was also able to manipulate Portal the donkey into setting explosive barrels that sank part of the town into the sea. The donkey was also dragged away by alligators after leaving town with one of the pieces. The stolen piece was received by Sarah and was put into a block of cheese, which we saw a couple episodes ago. The second piece also sank into the sea along with the town. Sarah explains that Mystery Incorporated is just reliving everything that has happened in the past. His final message to them is about the animal mascot of each group and how it serves to set up terrible events. At the end of the episode, we see Sarah crumble to dust and everyone becomes speechless. Aliens Among Us is the 16th episode of Season 2 and the 42nd overall episode. Yes, this is the actual title. While Velma's computer spits out some coordinates, Sheriff Stone barges in and says that the world is at war with aliens. He recalls memories of when he was 14 and how aliens abducted him. After noticing that a GPS was stolen from the mall, they watch the security footage and notice a little boy, a woman, and something that looks like an alien. The mystery machine suddenly breaks down while noticing a glowing orb flying by, and they are sure that there are aliens. Velma's mom talks about her conspiracies with the gang and even hypnotizes the sheriff in order to find out more about the aliens. They find Space Cook's suit missing and also notice a Nordic alien in the suit who then gets away. The sheriff is being protected by sleeping over at Daphne's mansion. Daphne's parents wake up in the middle of the night only to see the 3 aliens driving away with their car. They manage to capture the aliens, and after unmasking them, it turns out to be a person named Traveler O'Flaherty and his children named Sheila and Connor. His motive was to steal valuable things such as electronics and cars. After putting in coordinates into the GPS, They go to a cemetery in Gatorsburg. They find an old flintlock inside the grave. City Hall then gets set on fire when they come back, and we also see Brad and Judy watching from above with the invisible suits. The Horrible Herd is the 17th episode of season 2, and the 43rd overall episode. A farmer and his wife are relaxing until they get attacked by a herd of skeletal cows, which also eats the farmhouse. While eating food at a restaurant, Daphne complains about the quality of the food, and the waiter tells her that 5 local farms have just been destroyed the past week. While they go to investigate, the ground starts shaking and they see the herd start to approach. The mystery machine has to use jet boosters in order to escape, and we can also see the cattle eating the tractors. Velma comes to a conclusion that only Pericles would create these evil creatures. Velma spies on them and notices Mr. E telling Pericles that they spend too much money on the creatures. Pericles created these creatures by crossbreeding cows, piranhas, and bees with the sole purpose to destroy Crystal Cove. The herd is also able to eat the roads and seal the town off. They realize that all of the cattle are males, which means that the queen must be at Destroido. They use a helicopter to locate the creatures. Shaggy and Scooby manage to steal an egg from the queen, and they lead her into a trap. They fly the queen over the town, which also causes the skeletal herd to follow in pursuit. Pericles commands Brad and Judy to fire a missile at the helicopter, and they manage to take out the tail rotors. Unfortunately, this causes Nova the dog to fall into the herd. The herd follows the queen when she drops into the sea. They share concerns over releasing these species into the ecosystem, but the sheriff says it's fine. The episode ends with them rushing an unconscious Nova to the hospital, and we see Pericles stating that he will take revenge on them for messing up his plan. Dance of the Undead is the 18th episode of season 2 and the 44th overall episode. Chrissy Christie is a news reporter who reports from the spot where the music group Rude Boy and the Scotastics had died 30 years ago in a plane crash. While interviewing the former Scotastics manager, they get attacked by the music group, who come back as zombies. Shaggy and Scooby also see this on the broadcast and become terrified. They go to a building in town called Grooves from the Grave and meet the shop owner named Martha Quinn. She shows them the only hit song from the band, which is called Graveyard Ska Inc. She also shows them a slideshow which demonstrates how Rude Boy would use voodoo magic in order to gain popularity. Rude Boy and his members then attack the tiki tub, which forces everyone to be hypnotized and start dancing. The victims can't stop and are then transported to the hospital. All of the victims will enter this cataleptic state if a cure is not found within 24 hours. The gang gets attacked while investigating the cemetery where the band was buried. After hearing the ska music outside, they noticed a band playing on the roof of City Hall. Fred, Daphne, Velma, the shop owner, and the manager all start uncontrollably dancing. Shaggy and Scooby aren't affected though, since Shaggy is tone deaf and Scooby is a dog. They interrupt the Hex Girls' concert and ask them for help. While the Hex Girls play their own song to counter Rude Boy, they start losing at first until Shaggy and Scooby help. Sheriff Stone reveals the band to actually be the real people who just simply fake their deaths. While everyone is at Shaggy's house, the Hex Girls discover musical notes on the planispheric disc and start humming it. Coordinates appear on the disc and it leads them to the clan cabin where Skipper Shelton resides. Shelton gives them the hat he was wearing and it has the writing on it which stands for Segundo Lave, Yave. Scooby is visiting Nova at the hospital until she apparently flatlines. She then opens her eyes and says the word Nibiru only to collapse once again. The Devouring is the 19th episode of Season 2 and the 45th overall episode. We see Fran Silly Jackson get eaten by a demon on her cooking show while Rick, Spartan, and Kachinga are watching. Pericles also realizes that Mr. E locked him out of the computer system, but he soon tells Mr. E how he's just a shoulder for the bird to perch on. Scooby is scared because he doesn't know if something supernatural is actually occurring. Before Rick, Spartan, Kachinga, and Fred can start throwing all the food out, the demon monster arrives and eats all of it. We learn from Dr. Spartan how this demon monster has been here from Egyptian times to even the French Revolution. Scooby and Shaggy also eat all of the gluten in town before the demon can, which makes them gain a lot of weight. Ricky, known as Mr. E, informs Judy and Brad about how insane Pericles has gotten. They try to trap the creature only for it to be too massive. Shaggy and Scooby have to sumo wrestle the creature to the ground, and it's actually revealed to be Fran Silly Jackson herself. She wanted to regain popularity after secretly leaking one of her recipes. She also drops a bowl with the word tercero lave, which means the third key. While Ricky tells Pericles that he's out of the group, Pericles suddenly reveals how he put mutated cobra larvae into his spine. He announces how he will destroy Mystery Incorporated and steal the disc. Stand and delivers the 20th episode of Season 2 and the 46th overall episode. A family in a car encounters a person named the Dandy Highwayman, and he somehow convinces the wife to leave her family and join him instead. Scooby is feeding Nova until robots surround the room and Nova says Nibiru is coming once again. It actually just turns out to be a dream the whole time. While driving to the mall, they notice many wrecked cars and Sheriff Stone tells them about the new villain who robs people. The Dandy Highwayman interrupts Daphne's parents while they are on a fake vacation and Daphne's mom leaves with them. A support group is located at the City Hall to discuss the Dandy Highwayman, but he appears and manages to even make Mayor Nettles leave with them. While Scooby is at the library, he has yet again another dream and he sees Horatio Caron, who is an author. The librarian also refers the gang to the dashing, debonair rogue section in order to find out more about the villain. Scooby wakes up to Velma's voice and everyone notices how the dashing rogue's books have been checked out by the abducted woman. Velma also sees Quarto Lave, which means fourth key in one of the pages. They plan to dress up Shaggy and Scooby as women, but the plan doesn't work, and the Dandy Highwayman takes Daphne instead. They also notice a person named Pool Boy at Velma's house, who was hired by Velma's mother. Daphne manages to find a phone in the cave and texts Fred. Daphne also manages to persuade the Dandy Highwayman to go after Velma's mom since she is rich and loves to read. It turns out to be a trap and they capture the villain, who's actually the librarian. He talks about having no friends and how to win a woman over just by paying attention to them. An interdimensional being takes over the body of Nova and explains how it's a being that can inhabit animals. The most evil of these so-called Anunnakis is the one imprisoned within the crystal sarcophagus. Scooby is informed that he must destroy it in order to actually save the world. The Man in the Mirror is the 21st episode of Season 2 and the 47th overall episode. The gang hears from Mayor Nettles that a certain house is haunted. When Fred goes into the basement to check for clues, his reflection in the mirror pulls him inside of it. Fred wakes up only to find himself in this post-apocalyptic world of tons of skeletons. He thinks everyone is dead until he meets this old version of Daphne. The old Daphne informs him that the planispheric disk destroyed Crystal Cove and she's the only survivor. The evil version of Fred comes out while the rest of the gang waits, and they don't think anything at first. They do become suspicious after he starts acting different from the normal Fred. While evil Fred is looking for the disc, The real Fred is also looking alongside old Daphne. The gang comes to a realization that this is a fake Fred and the real one must be somewhere else. After the real Fred and the old Daphne escape from skeletons, Fred tells Daphne that he knows the truth about her. This is when the real Fred uncovers the truth about the fake Crystal Cove and he meets the evil Fred and the rest of the gang at Steel Cove Factories. The two Freds start fighting and Daphne has to ask them about how they feel about her in order to know who's the real one. It turns out that the evil Fred was Brad Childs and the old Daphne was Judy Reeves. Fred's parents both went through plastic surgery in order to look like Daphne and Fred. In a surprising turn of events, Pericles arrives and threatens to kill Daphne if Fred doesn't give the full disc. Fred has to sadly comply and we see Pericles bring the full planispheric disc to a secret chamber. Pericles then announces that he's coming for his master. Nightmare in Red is the 22nd episode of Season 2 and the 48th overall episode. Scooby's dreams start getting worse and he encounters a scarier freak of Crystal Cove. After Scooby wakes up, he recognizes an author on the back of a book who we saw before and his name was Professor Horatio Caron, who is the person that keeps appearing in his dreams. They go over to talk with Professor Caron, but Velma states how she doesn't believe in real monsters. They notice pictures of the freak creature on the walls when arriving at his mansion. Professor Caron says that all of the answers are within the sitting room, which is between time, space, and different dimensions. Before hypnotizing Mystery Incorporated, Professor Caron warns Scooby that he will never wake up if the creature is actually able to get him. In order to defeat the monster, they will have to reveal its true identity. The professor unveils the hypnotizing machine and the gang enter a deep sleep. They also have a time limit of just 1 hour. In the sitting room, they see the best parts of other people who are also trapped there by the cursed treasure. They even see Fred's old dad, the mayor. The mayor comes to life after they touch him and he tells them how the creature inspired his own freak design in Season 1. The creature then appears, which causes them to start running. Fred enters the Wild West and sees one of the old mystery gangs. Shaggy and Scooby encounter Alliance Mysteria, who are also another mystery-solving gang. Velma locates the Darrow family by using a flintlock. Daphne appears at the Burlington Library and sees the Benevolent Lodge of Mystery with the fourth key. The freak chases all of them and they arrive at a temple. They see the creature getting weaker when going near the light and he runs away with the talisman. They meet Nova, who is actually the Anunnaki version of Nova, and Velma has a mental breakdown trying to process everything. The Anunnaki Nova tells them about the first Mystery Incorporated, who are also known as the Hunters of Secrets. While attempting to destroy the sarcophagus with the heart of the jaguar, the conquistador stole it. Fred goes over to Mayor Jones and forgives him for everything. Mayor Jones also tells him how proud he will be no matter what happens. I also quickly need to mention the actual identity of the monster freak, and it turns out it was the spirit of a conquistador by the name of Fernando El Aguirre. After giving the talisman to the dancing man, it sends him back to the real world. They then get a message from the Anunnaki Nova who tells them to find the heart of the jaguar in order to destroy the evil. While Quran is grateful for what they did, Mystery Incorporated are still trying to process everything that just happened. Priestess is the 23rd episode of Season 2 and the 49th overall episode. A professor by the name of Enrique Andalusa, who was also a previous lover of Velma's mom, gets attacked by vines while looking for the heart of the jaguar. The gang then go over to Yucatan with Velma's mom in order to also look for the heart of the jaguar. While visiting the antique shop of the missing professor, they encounter his wife, who blames Velma's mom for her husband disappearing. After returning to the store after some time, they get attacked by the Mayon priestess, who warns them to stay away from the temple. They don't pay the creature any mind and manage to come upon the heart of the jaguar with Fred's knowledge of overcoming traps. The priestess tries to attack, but it is ultimately caught and is revealed to be Professor Andulosa, who just wanted to get Velma's mom back. Mrs. Dinkley tells him that she's moved on and is now in love with Mr. Dinkley. While Enrique's wife continues to be furious at him, Mystery Incorporated noticed a mysterious woman who was following them this episode. They get surprised by Mayor Nettles, who is actually an old friend of the mysterious woman. Mayor Nettles tells them about the nightmare she had, which told her that the gang needed to find the heart of the jaguar and take it back to Crystal Cove. Mrs. Dinkley embraces her daughter because Velma doesn't know what to think about the real stuff, as she previously thought was fake. Gates of Gloom is the 24th episode of Season 2 and the 50th overall episode. After dropping off Velma's mom at the Spook Museum, they arrive at Crystal Cove only for it to be deserted and everyone has been swallowed up by the ground. They also witness the disappearance of Sheriff Stone and Mayor Nettles. They go over to Fred's house in order to talk about the disc, Nibiru, and the planet supposedly aligning. The ground tries to suck the gang in, only for it to ultimately fail. An armored mole-like truck arrives and we see robots start emerging. All of the robots get cut into pieces by Fred's traps in his own house. They go beneath Crystal Cove only to see everyone working for Pericles and the original Mystery Incorporated. They devise a plan which involves disguising Shaggy and Scooby as the robots. Fred, Velma, and Daphne use an armored version of the Mystery Machine in order to attack the robots. At the same time, Sheriff Stone also starts up a rebellion against the robots and Pericles himself. Before the robots can kill Shaggy due to Pericles ordering them to, Scooby is able to destroy some of the robots. The mines then become sabotaged and we see many of the robots finally being destroyed. The Mystery Machine is also blown up remotely by Fred, Velma, and Daphne after some robots stop the vehicle. Pericles has finally found what he was looking for the entire time, which was a gateway to the evil entity. He opens the gateway with the planispheric disc and hopes that Mystery Incorporated will follow behind. The gang do follow shortly behind while also carrying all of the relics in a bag. Through the Curtain is the 25th episode of Season 2 and the 51st overall episode. This is also the second to last episode. We see the evil entity wanting to get unlocked so he can burn down Crystal Cove. Velma manages to find out that all 4 gates are symbols of air, earth, water, and fire. Each gate can also only be opened with the corresponding key. While the mystery gang come face to face with the air gate, they remember how the sailcloth, which belonged to the benevolent Lodge of Mystery, is the key that can open it. Shaggy wonders why the 4th key is used first, but Daphne reminds him that the gates were actually built in reverse order. Pericles soon arrives and tells them to open the gate even though Mystery Incorporated are hesitant at first. They only comply when Marcy, also known as Hot Dog Water, is used as a hostage. Fred is aware that the gate has a trap and he then activates it. Everyone starts struggling because of the vortex that has been brought upon by the air gate. Many of the robots are also destroyed in the process. Before Daphne can be sucked in by the gate, Fred manages to plug the hole of the sailcloth. The gate becomes open and it reveals a dimension filled with floating islands and bridges. Marcy is able to take Pericles as a hostage while telling the gang to go ahead. While Marcy is telling the enemies that she's gonna kill Pericles, Judy is able to hit her by using her husband's belt, which allows for Pericles to escape. In one of the saddest scenes in the show, we cut back to the gang who heard the gunshots, which means that Hot Dog Water was killed off. They open the second gate with the mortal bowl, which brings them to a mysterious cavern. They get chased by a rock monster until Fred manages to trick it into destroying itself. They use the conquistador helmet on the third gate, which appears to be surrounded by a wall of water. The gate is then turned into a boat, which sends them flying off a waterfall. They start drifting across the ocean and Velma explains that they are passing through dimensions with the power of the planispheric disc. While Pericles' group just passed through the Earth dimension, Mystery Incorporated realized that the next gate is below the water. Shaggy attempts to open the final gate with the flintlock only for it to ricochet around the room. Daphne soon realizes that the key is actually the flint itself and they then open the gate. They enter a cavern filled with lava and they soon encounter the evil entity. The entity declares that the gang are destined to set it free, and how he has manipulated Grun. Mystery Incorporated started thinking about what the entity said and whether or not they only became a group because of fate. Daphne doesn't accept this and declares how much she loves Fred and that the bond they have cannot be broken. Scooby is about to destroy the evil entity with the heart of the jaguar until Pericles arrives and snatches the spear away. At the very end of the episode, we see Professor Pericles open the sarcophagus and the evil entity has finally been unleashed upon the world. Let's finally get into the finale of the greatest Scooby-Doo series ever created. Come Undone is the 26th episode of Season 2 and the 52nd overall episode of the season. These two devoted their lives to helping Pericles instead of actually supporting their own son, which shows how the previous mayor was way more of a father figure than they were. Manages to suck everything inside of it except for the gang. We then see a bright light appear, while Mayor Jones also appears to be the school principal. After coming together, they realize how reality was reset, and they are now in a universe while Mystery Incorporated drives off into the sunset. Although the ending wasn't liked by some, I do think that it was a pretty good conclusion. There were plans to have season 3, but Cartoon Network canceled it. Honestly, I think a series where they go to university and explore mysteries would have been very fun to watch. Is Mystery Incorporated the best animated show ever? Well, no, but it is very enjoyable and the writing was actually amazing for a kid's show. Thank you for watching. I already said this, but I would appreciate it if you could subscribe since I put a lot of effort into the video. Goodbye.